This episode of the EnergyPro Podcast is brought to you in part by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners 1 free audiobook and 2 free Audible originals with their 30-day free trial membership. Visit audibletrial.com/EnergyPro and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a free title and start listening today. After 30 days, your cost is just $14.95 per month and you may cancel at any time. And now through January of 2020, save $50 off the first year of an annual membership. That's a savings of over 30%. There are no commitments and you may cancel at any time. And this is actually quite a good deal. If you sign up at the monthly rate over the course of a year, that'll cost you almost $180. The annual membership normally is $149.50, but with this special, that brings the annual membership down to $99.50. So take advantage of this limited time offer. Go to audibletrial.com/EnergyPro to learn more. Welcome to the EnergyPro Podcast. I'm Bill Alleman, host and producer of the show. This is the podcast that's dedicated to coaching professionals across the energy industry. I have over 30 years of leadership experience in various aspects of the energy industry, including corporate and consulting roles, leading global collaborative teams, and supporting a variety of sectors, including manufacturing, commercial buildings, heavy industry, and critical environments, and technical expertise in demand-side management, power generation and distribution, and renewable energy. As a certified energy manager, certified energy auditor, and lead accredited professional, I've learned that actively managing your career is the best way to improve performance and achieve results. This is how we manage our projects. Let's manage our careers in the same way. Each week I dig into topics such as career development, team leadership, job search, and more to help you take control of your career. I'm honored that you've decided to spend a portion of your day with me. Let's get started. Hey, welcome back to the EnergyPro Podcast, formerly known as Energize the Energy Professionals Podcast. In the spirit of continuous improvement, I updated the show's title at the beginning of 2020. Tried to make it a little more concise, a little more focused, easier to roll off the tongue. Still the same website, none of the links have changed. So if you've bookmarked any pages from the show, you're still in good shape. Nothing's changed. This week we wanted to talk about succession planning. I was having a conversation with an industry colleague of mine that we both worked in the automotive industry, though for different manufacturers, and we've been in the industry for a number of decades. And he was mentioning how a lot of companies that he works with, and these are very large global corporations that have robust energy management programs, they're very accomplished, they have systems in place, and everything's going very well. They don't have a succession plan for their energy manager or anyone else on their energy team. If someone were to get promoted or get a different assignment or quit or something changes, they really don't have a plan on who can backfill key positions on their team. And he didn't mention this, but what that tells me is that if they don't have a succession plan, they're probably not actively grooming and mentoring their team. Because if you are doing that, then you're thinking of a plan for each person to expand their professional development. Where are they going to go in the organization? What's their current assignment? What's the next step? You have some sort of robust plan for each employee. Now, plans always change, but still, you have some sort of game plan on where are you at, where is each employee headed, and what training and coaching do they need to get them where you need them to be in your organization, but also where their interest lies and where they want to be. And succession planning doesn't have to be a rigorous, massive, structured process, but there are certain key elements, basic elements that you should follow, and that's what I wanted to go through today. The first, and we've kind of already talked about this, is to be proactive. Don't wait for someone to quit or there to be some reassignment of an employee, and then you're in a reactionary mode. Gosh, we just lost someone. Now what do? Let's come up with a plan. Let's develop a transition plan. Now, we always hope that no one quits, but if you keep your eyes and your ears open, usually someone who is looking for opportunities outside of the team or outside of the company is usually showing some sort of I don't want to say disdain, I think just dissatisfaction with their role. The company that I currently work for, I knew someone who recently left the organization, and she was actually a bit vocal on her dissatisfaction to her leadership with her job assignment and lack of opportunities to progress. So it's not like you don't always have any warning. The signs may not be as overt as an employee expressing their dissatisfaction. Again, I'm trying to use a soft word, but in a case like that, when someone quits, it really should not be a surprise that at least they were a flight risk and open to opportunities outside of the company. So don't wait for those situations to happen before you have a plan in place. The second key element is to be flexible and open-minded. For example, an employee that may be the second in command to a boss or the heir apparent for the boss's role may not necessarily be the best candidate. There may be people in neighboring departments, and if that heir apparent really isn't the best candidate, maybe you should recruit from the outside. Remember, there's more to a viable candidate than just getting the job done. If you're getting the job done, that's great, but if you're doing it and making everyone angry in the process and people don't like working with you, then that gets counterproductive. It hurts the work culture, on and on. So keep an open mind. If there is an open position that you need to backfill, try to identify the best candidate for that role and not just the next person in line. This next item feeds off of that, and that is to collaborate. While you're putting your plan together, talk to your contemporaries in your organization, talk to the other managers. There should be a personnel committee that's established to identify employees and develop them and identify who's ready for the next move. They should be included in your decision making, so you're not making a decision in a vacuum. You're getting some fresh eye reviews on your process. You're bouncing ideas off your colleagues. Put multiple heads together to really develop the best process. The fourth element is to have frequent feedback, especially with your high potentials. Annual reviews are not going to be often enough, and mid-year reviews are usually cursory check-the-box exercises. But for your top performers, you should be having one-on-one discussions much more frequently. And if you're concerned about doing this in a fashion that sort of includes some people and doesn't include others, then if your team or your direct reports are at a size that's manageable, have a one-on-one discussion with each person. Do that once a month. Even the folks that are not high potentials or are your first choice for advancement will still have valuable feedback. And a one-on-one forum gives them the chance to open up a little bit more, be a little more honest, and share things that they wouldn't in a normal department meeting. I've been in organizations where that one-on-one process is used, and I highly encourage you to give it a try. The fifth element is to train your high potentials. Now, I don't mean just sending them to a class or giving them some additional assignments. I'm talking about taking them under your wing. Either mentor them or find someone who can be a mentor for them, and maybe they can do a bit of job shadowing. Those of us who are engineers, and actually many folks who are not engineers, we're very poor at delegating. This is a perfect opportunity to take some things off of our plate and delegate some responsibility to someone who can work in sort of a deputy fashion. It'll help lighten your load and it'll give them some valuable experience. And that also ties into the next point, which is to make note of high and low performance. As you delegate those tasks, see how the person is doing. Are they picking up on what needs to be done? Are they getting to a point where they can walk and run on their own? They don't need a lot of direction or active management. And as I mentioned before, does the person work well with others? There's a book, I'll put a link in the show page that I don't think I can say the title in a clean podcast, but let's just say the title. You may have seen the book. It's the No A-Hole Rule. It's basically a book about, how to lead teams without being a jerk about it. But also you don't want to be too soft. So as you monitor your top performer, how are they doing? Not only getting the job done, but in those interpersonal skills. And make sure that you're giving valuable feedback, both feedback that's positive as well as feedback that's constructive. In the many decades that I've worked, as you can imagine, I've had a variety of bosses. One of my earliest bosses was a great guy. He was so easygoing, great to work with. He was very complimentary. He was very positive. which made for a great work environment, but you couldn't get any constructive feedback from him. It's like, yes, all these things are great, but what can I do to get better? And the answer always would be, you're doing great. I can't think of anywhere you need to improve. Just keep going. So yeah, but there has to be something. I want to improve what I'm doing, improve my skill set, and you're looking for feedback and you're just not getting it. Conversely, the job that I had prior to that one was the exact opposite. You ever hear the old joke that the beatings will continue until morale improves? That was my first job out of college. A very caustic and abrasive work environment. It almost felt like boot camp. And we were treated like, we didn't know anything and you're just terrible. And that was used as some sort of motivator for you to get better. But negative reinforcement doesn't work for animals. It doesn't work for dogs and pets. It doesn't work for people either. In fact, the only benefit I can think of from that experience is it did motivate me. It motivated me to quit and find a better job, which I did. So, I don't know. I guess it backfired on him. And the last module is to do what I call test flights with those high potential or those folks that you're trying to groom. Not just delegating a few tasks to them, but give them some direct responsibility. Maybe you're going on vacation for a week or two. Instead of staying plugged in to your email, unload your responsibilities to one or two people to handle things while you're gone. And they can contact you if there's something going sour. Again, that lightens your load, but it also gives them a chance of what it's like to walk in your shoes and have your job. And you get to see how they performed and if they handled the additional workload and stress. Another option is if there's recurring meetings that you go to that are at a higher level or a leadership level, could you send a delegate instead of going to every meeting? That works by giving you some options for time management and gives the next person experience of being in higher level meetings. I also wanted to include some bullet points from the consultant Marshall Goldsmith. If you're not familiar with the name, Marshall Goldsmith is a well-known business consultant. He's an executive coach. He's just very well-known. He has a number of books that he's written. He's really an authority on leadership, management, and organizations. I'll put some links with information to the article I'm referencing and also his background and some videos on the show page for you to reference. And the 3 key points that he shares is, number 1, succession planning should really be called succession development. And I think that ties in well with the 7 key points that we previously went through. His second key point is to measure outcomes, not just the process. And what he means is to use active management skills, establish and track goals, engage senior executives, and use those results to help guide future efforts and course corrections. And I'll paraphrase a bit here. What he's saying is that so many companies will focus on the process and really making it into some big structural, laborious process of managing people and just, matrices and forced ranking and all these tools. When in reality, you should be focused on what are the outcomes? How are you measuring the outcomes? How effective is the process? Not just the process itself. Myself being in Detroit, I'm thinking of an automotive analogy. If we're trying to build a race car, we're really interested in how that race car performs. But if we spend all our time in design and prototyping and building an engine and the vehicle and the aerodynamics, but the vehicle never gets out on the track and performs, you don't know what the outcome is. And his third and last point really dovetails into that, which is to keep the process simple. Don't come up with some complex assessment criteria and trying to measure all these different attributes and putting together some sort of complex process. You're not trying to make a Swiss clock here. Otherwise, we're back to his second point. The focus will be on the process and not the outcome. He also gives 2 really good examples. One being a high-performing mid-level executive that does great in all the jobs that she's had, whether that's in product development and engineering and all these different corners of the organization, of the company. But she really needs to spend some time in the sales organization to understand that side of the business. But the sales organization doesn't want to bring someone in who's not experienced. So now this employee, she has a catch-22. You can't get to the next level because you can't learn the missing piece of your organization. That part of the organization doesn't want to take on the load of having you on board. In a situation like that, it's important to have executive level sponsorship. The sales organization may be told, look, get over it. You're going to have this employee for, 24 months. Train them as much as you can. Give them all the experiences. They're not coming in to take over or run the department or take anyone's job away. But we need this person to understand what you guys do and to walk in your shoes. And a great way to do that is to basically give someone the assignment. It's like Simon Says. What I've always done is tell someone, look, here's the person you're getting. You need to make them successful. If they fail, you fail. All of a sudden, magically, the organization will have buy-in. Now they own the situation. They'll make sure that the employee that you're giving them is going to get the experiences that she needs. The other example he gives is one that we alluded to earlier, which is a top performer with high potential, and it's the heir apparent for a higher role, but this person cannot get along with senior leadership. And one or two people in the higher ranks of the organization are saying, the person performs well, yes, they get their job done, but they tick everybody off in the process. Now, granted, you're there to get a job done, you're not there to win friends, but still, you need to be somewhere in the middle. So that's another case where an employee is really stuck. They need to advance, but they can't. So I hope that provided you some value regarding succession planning. We went through the basic elements of what succession planning is. We reviewed some executive direction that we got from Marshall Goldsmith. So really your homework assignment is for the team that you lead, what is your succession plan? If you have someone on your team that could get reassigned, may get pulled away from you, maybe they quit, maybe they get promoted, what are you going to do? And granted, these plans have to be dynamic because the world is never static. Everything is always changing. But take a snapshot of what your organization looks like today and take each seat. And if this person left, what would I do? How would those chess pieces move on the board? How would I manage business continuity? The last thing you want to happen is to have someone who, again, they're a flight risk. They've been a bit vocal about it. That's falling on deaf ears. All of a sudden, one day they turn in their notice. They may have been performing a role that was critical to the organization. Or you may have a very lean organization where you really don't have extra capacity to level out resources during an interim period of recruiting and finding a replacement. Are there any elements that I left out? What are your thoughts? I would love to hear them. You can provide feedback a few ways. One is to leave a comment on the show page. The second is to send me an email directly, and you can contact me using the email bill@conduitexcel.com. You can also catch me on Twitter, Facebook, even Instagram. Links and handles in the show notes and on the show page. Next week, we're going to talk about the ISO 50001 energy management standard and why it's so unpopular in the United States. If you look at the data of organizations that have become certified and facilities that have become certified, most of them are outside of the U.S. Let's talk about that next week. Hey, thanks for your time today. Please subscribe and feel free to share this podcast with others in the energy and engineering industries, especially those looking to take a more active role in managing their career. If you'd like to stay in touch, the best way to do that is through my show page at conduitexcel.com/podcast. You'll find a list of episodes, more information about the show, social links, and more. There's a Patreon button there if you'd like to toss a few dollars in the hat and help offset production and hosting costs. Just $1 a month would greatly help. Hey, thanks again for listening. I truly appreciate your time, and I'll see you next time on the EnergyPro Podcast.